Hello and welcome. It's The Chat. I am Manny. My guest on the program is an accomplished diplomat who has traveled around the world, and in a moment we'll find out which country he has not been to, but he is in a class of his own.
Ambassador Chiedu Joseph Keshi is a career diplomat, a renowned technocrat, former permanent secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the current director and vice chairman of United Bank for Africa PLC. Though Keshi hails from Delta State, he was born in Zaria, Kaduna State, and had his early childhood in Zaria and Ibadan, where he spent a good number of years growing up. He holds a BSc in Political Science from the University of Ibadan, a master's degree in Administration and Development from the Institute of Social Studies, The Hague, Netherlands. He holds a postgraduate diploma in International Relations and Diplomacy from Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Lagos, Nigeria. He is also an alumnus of the John Kennedy School of Government and the Harvard Business School. He joined the Nigerian Public Service in 1975 and has over 35 years of working experience as a Foreign Service officer. He served in a total of 8 missions, his first being the mission to Togo. While in Togo, he was nominated by President Obasanjo to participate in brokering the peace deal which ended the 10-year civil war in Sierra Leone and Liberia. He retired as the permanent secretary of both the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cabinet Secretariat under President Olusegun Obasanjo and Musa Yar'Adua respectively. Upon retirement, he joined the board of United Bank for Africa and is currently the director and vice chairman of the bank. Ambassador Joe Keshi has been married to Mrs. Dayo Keshi for the past 43 years, and their union is blessed with children and grandchildren.
Ambassador Joe Keshi, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I was just saying that you've traveled around the world and on diplomatic missions, and God knows which country you have not been to.
Oh, there's so many countries in the world, and I don't think anybody can actually cover all. But yeah, there are a couple of countries I've not been to. I served in about 8 missions, but in terms of diplomatic travel, I've really done extensive.
So how was your upbringing? Let's go back to that. Was it, sublime, or was it humble?
More humble, and look, I was born in Zaria, and my dad was in the police force, and I understand not too long after we were transferred to Lagos, where I started my primary school at St. Paul's, Ibutemeta, but we didn't stay long enough because we moved over
St. Paul's breadfruits.
And then we moved over to Ibadan, where we spent the next almost 20, 25 years, 30 years of our life. Did all my schooling there, went to University of Ibadan. And I think I really was shaped, not just by the influence of my lovely parents, but also I think both by the political and academic atmosphere environment of Ibadan at that time.
Was that what prepared you for foreign service?
No, in a way, yes. But I think in terms of foreign service, I think one of those who actually influenced me somewhere along the line was Henry Kissinger. I actually particularly liked the way he was going around the world, brokering peace and, very exciting thing. And, of course, I was in the university there, and I found it very fascinating.
How did it begin for you in the foreign service?
Oh, it was very, very interesting to start with from day one, because here were a group of young people just leaving school. And then you arrive at the ministry, you were properly welcomed, you were given a couple of forms to fill, your what we call biodata and everything today and so on. But in terms of the job itself, at that time, we had credible leaders in the foreign ministry. And to their credit...
What are you talking about?
There are so many of them, who really saw us as people they needed to train. And they did a lot of work. And we, my generation, were prepared to learn. The problem today, as I say it, is that you do not have those who are prepared to teach.
Was there any time, during that period that you felt like this job is not for me?
Candidly, no.
Really?
Candidly, no. Because right from my first posting in Togo, which was very exciting, in the sense that at that time, Nigeria was well respected and regarded.
How many missions do we have outside Nigeria?
Today, I think we have about 100 missions
all
over the world. If it's over, probably 101. I don't know if they've pruned it down, but that's about what I think we have.
Tell me about your assignments to broker peace in Sierra Leone.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was also very dangerous. It did happen that just as I was about to leave Togo, President Obasanjo was coming on to power, and the international community was moving towards trying to form a coalition to broker peace. And Nigeria was one of the countries, and the president decided that myself and another colleague, Ambassador Shinkai, should get involved in this. And then so we started meeting with the rest of the group in Togo. And we are liaising, and we are talking to all parties, the government, NGOs, and the rebels who had agreed at that time to come to the table. And almost close to when we thought we had an agreement, President Obasanjo did a tour of West Africa, and then we ended up in Pia, Ayadema's hometown, at 3 a.m. in the morning. And we met with the rebel leader, Fode Sanko. And as the conversation went on, and we were trying to persuade him to accept the agreement that we had drafted, he said that he needed to take the agreement to his boys in the bush, in the jungle of Sierra Leone and Liberia, and that once he can go and sell the agreement to them, he was sure that they will be able to sign on. And the two presidents said, no, we do not think that's wise, because they were sure that having him, having arrested him, they were sure they were going to pin him down to make peace. And so OBJ said, no way, this is what we do. I'm going to send my boys to talk to your boys. And Ayadema said he would add somebody to it. To cut a long story short, that was how we landed in Liberia, and Charles Taylor, now who was president at that time, now helped us and dropped us into the jungle, where he had already sent an advance team with some vehicles. So we went with the helicopter, we were dropped down, and then we took and traveled for half of the night. We got to the rebel headquarters, and we were with them for 4 days. I slept barely on the floor because they had nothing, And for 4 days, we tried to persuade them, and we read out the agreement, which they were reluctant to accept. But they had other captives, from some top officials of the Sierra Leonean government that had been captured as well there, So they joined in helping to persuade this guy that, look, they needed to make peace. And we also had Charles Taylor, who sent us one of his people that virtually knew all the guys. So with him talking to them as well, and with we putting pressure, Anyway, they agreed, and and it created an interesting insight, because sometimes I relate it to what goes on here. I had a lot of conversation with the young people who were involved. Some of them started fighting at the age of 7. And at the time we were set to end this war, 7, 8, 9, some of them were already 16, 15, 16, 17. To the extent that we insisted that Taylor promised to get them all out for the signing of the agreement, and he said he would clean them up. And when they were cleaned up, in other words, their hairs were shaved, and he provided a better dressing for them, they could look like any of our sons, young people who should be in school.
You went back home, and you were still the permanent secretary at that time. There were obvious complaints from the diaspora, not just by Nigerians in the diaspora, but even the missions in diaspora, that funding was not getting to them. Their complaints were lack of booklets for visas and all of that. And I keep wondering, what is the problem of funding the foreign missions?
There are two problems you've mixed into one. The problem of visas, passports, has nothing to do with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Unfortunately, most people do not understand this. It has everything to do with the Ministry of Interior. The foreign missions, our embassies just offered them a place to do their work. So the issue of passport visas is caused by the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Immigration Office. Even today in the country, you can go to a number of immigration offices. They have no passport booklets. So that also affects our mission. But you see, because the operations take place in the missions, it is the embassies that are.
What about the staff of the missions
the issue of funding,
complain?
The issue of funding.
Yes,
it's been a long problem in the ministry, even when we got in. And for me, that's simply because the country has not yet come to appreciate enough about how to fund a ministry like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They actually still look at it like one of the ministries, one of the home ministries they have to fund.
In fact, recent reports show that they brought down the budget.
Yes. So it's like, what are you people spending all this money for? Because while our counterparts at home in the home ministries, every money they have denominated in Naira, as quite a chunk of ours is in foreign currency. Now, when you convert it, it's huge. And the people in the Ministry of Finance start playing their game. Even for some ministers of Finance, they begin to question. For example, I've been at a meeting where the director of budget is furious, asking why ambassadors driving Mercedes-Benz.
What was your last assignment before you retired from the service?
Permanent Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs.
How did you prepare for departure?
Very good question. Sometimes you are caught up almost unprepared. I had a lot of options that I was looking at that time. And on their own, other options came, to me, like being asked to join the board of United Bank for Africa, and then also establish this BRICS Commission that is responsible for trying to promote economic cooperation between the states of the South-South.
Let's take it that you have been working from home.
Home and out of home. Because I travel extensively both in and out.
Yes. Okay, we'll take a break and come back after this. Pick a question. You get what you want. There you go.
How would you have reacted if you found out one of your children participating in the NSAS protest?
That'd be interesting to know.
I would have been very happy. I would have encouraged him because I took part in a lot of protests while I was in the university. And they were not too different from the NSAS protests. And more especially, I think that, some of these protests help the younger ones to discover their obligations to this country. And the main reason why I feel very disappointed that the government particularly, and I'll name him the Inspector General of Police and his cohorts, are presenting alternative story to what happened. We had a lot of demonstrations. We fought the police in Ibadan so many times. We were dragged many times to the police station in Elele, and we met the Commissioner of Police and tried to educate the Commissioner of Police how to handle, protests like ours. We are not protesting anything, but when we started to protest in Ibadan in those days, we had where we want to get to, make a lot of noise and so on, and then people return to the bars. My sadness is that after so many years of police dealing with protesters, police in this country have not cared to learn how to manage protests. And this is the
and many other things.
And many other things. And this is the reason why you find that it all ended in a tragedy, unfortunately. And to hear the Inspector General of Police in particular and the Minister of Information tell an alternative story that these guys who spend the whole day dancing, eating at Lekki, want to overthrow the federal government, it's madness.
Would you have wished the protest continued?
No, look, what needed to be done was simply to listen to them and deal with the situation in the police. The Nigerian police of today needs a radical reformation, including the military. They've done about 3 or 4 reforms. It has not worked in the police. Everywhere in the world, for goodness sake, just before the SARS protest, there was this massive protest all over the United States, Black Lives Matters. What did the police do? Because part of the protest was against police brutality. They allowed the people to continue marching until they were tired. In some states, the police joined and led the protest. So it's a question of management. And the sooner we learn how to deal with this situation and stop giving alternative stories that they were trying. I really hate it when I hear them saying that these kids who were enjoying themselves more or less dancing, these are not Fidel Castro guys. These are not people like Fidel Castro and Che Guevara who will organize people from Lagos and travel 8 hours to come and overthrow a government. For goodness sake, no. These are pure innocent people that they gather in the morning. The first thing they do, they set up their music boxes.
So what do you think about their demands?
Their demands were very reasonable. End police brutality. What was too much in doing that? In the United States, they are clamoring for defunding the police.
Are you satisfied with the response?
No. How can I be satisfied with people being killed? No Nigerians should be satisfied. We should hold the government, particularly the military, accountable for what they've done. Because you kind of say to people, this is a democratic country, for goodness sake. You cannot, anybody who wants to protest should be allowed to protest. If the fellow wants to spend the next 10 years of his life protesting, let that person go ahead and protest. But one thing must be done. The police must provide security for the protesters and for those who are not protesting. For goodness sake, this is the way it's done all over the world. The whole idea that you must end it and kill people and provide opportunity for looters and then blame it on poor innocent protesters.
What has been the most wonderful day of your life?
When you are growing up, there are so many things you don't think of. Even becoming a husband comes along the way. And then you wake up one morning to you just discover
So that didn't matter to you at all. It wasn't.
No, it was important, but that your daughter that was running around the house a few years ago is going to be a mother on her own right, and your son a father on her own right. And then you begin to look at yourself, oh God, is this?
Are you expecting to see a Jonathan back again?
If I have to advise the former president, I would tell him to continue to enjoy his retirement and not be made a pawn on a chess board that probably he himself will not understand. Thank you.
You're not related to the Keshi we know, the other
Yeah,
Keshi.
I was like, there are three Keshis from Delta.
Yeah.
And somehow we all look alike.
Wow.
And we all connect.
Wow.
So I was like an uncle to him right from for a long time that we got to meet. Again, this is where the federal government is very unfair to our sports people. We related to the then minister, that guy who wears a cap like that.
Were you referring to
No, the minister of from Jos, the last minister of sports.
Yes, Dualongo.
Yes, we related to him. We expected that the federal government, this was the national captain of the team, for goodness sake, that the federal government would immortalize his name as they do all over the world with such a person. But they just kept, we've written to the president, we're expecting the president, until we buried this guy. The federal government never did much. It's unfortunate. And this is exactly the same attitude we still have with our sportsmen, not to recognize the sacrifice that they make for this country. Because at the end of the day, the glory not only goes to them, but also goes to the country. And we need to realize this.
Well, let's not bring down our heads, but bring it up. You're going away to an island for 10 days. You'll be allowed 5 items to go with you. Not your wife, not your children, 5 items that you would use to keep yourself on the island. What might this be?
Well, first thing I'll tell you that I'll take is my rosary. I'm a Catholic.
You're Catholic, okay.
It's my rosary, and the Bible will certainly also be with me. These days, I find it difficult to separate myself from my iPad. And I don't know whether in the island that you then visit, they will have Wi-Fi and internet. If they don't have, then I won't bother taking that. But the other things that certainly would be with me are a couple of books.
Do you read a lot of books?
I do read a lot of books.
One more.
One more thing. What will I think? Probably a few things that I will eat. I don't know how the food arrangement would. But can I survive in an island? Of course, yes, I can very easily. I just see myself that having survived in a place like Sierra Leone and spending 4 days with the rebels with practically nothing, and except guns and crazy people around us, I believe I can actually, survive anywhere. And I think that's part of the training that
you
one
have
comes
a survival instincts,
I think that's one of those training that one comes out, that one goes through, that you were built to be strong, confident, and, prayerful also. That gives you a different kind of spiritual strength.
What plans for Christmas?
Well, COVID has destroyed our Christmas for this year, so our best bet is to pray for a better Christmas next year.
That's the last word from Ambassador Keshi. Thanks for being on the program.
I thank you so much for...
It's been The Chat. I am Manny. See you again.
The Chat is produced by Channels Television. You can watch it again online. Just visit our social media platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Facebook.